Dr. Jiwan pressed her face against the small window of the research vessel Harmony. Stars filled the black space around them, but one star looked different. It was not a star at all. It was their destination. Kepler 442b glowed like a blue and green jewel in the darkness. First contact in human history, she whispered to herself. Her hands shook a little as she held her data pad. 3 years of travel had led to this moment. Captain Minho walked up behind her. His boots made soft sounds on the metal floor. "Nervous, Doctor?" he asked with a small smile. Jiwan turned around, very nervous, but also excited. "We are about to meet another thinking species. After all these years of wondering if we are alone in the universe." The bridge of the Harmony buzzed with quiet activity. Dr. Hyuna sat at her language station. Her screens showed wave patterns and sound files. She was the best language expert on Earth. If anyone could talk to aliens, it would be her. Dr. Taiho stood near the cultural analysis computer. He had studied every human society that ever existed. Now he had to figure out alien society. His job might be the hardest of all. Young Soman checked the recording equipment one more time. As the junior researcher, she felt lucky to be here. Most people her age were still in school. She got to meet aliens. "Captain," called the communication officer. "We are getting the signal again." Everyone on the bridge became quiet. The signal had brought them here. It came from the planet below. It was clearly made by intelligent beings. The pattern was too complex to be natural. "Put it on speakers," Captain Minho said. A sound filled the bridge. It was beautiful and strange, like music, but not human music. It had notes that went up and down in ways that human voices could not make. Sometimes it sounded like singing, birds. Sometimes like wind through trees. But there was a pattern, a structure that meant it was language. "Any progress, Dr. Hyuna?" the captain asked. Dr. Hyuna looked up from her screens. Her eyes were tired but bright with excitement. "I think I found basic mathematical concepts, and what might be greetings. But, Captain, this language is unlike anything on Earth. The sound range is much wider than human speech." Dr. Jiwan felt her heart beat faster. "So they are definitely not human-like in how they communicate." "Probably not human-like in many ways," Dr. Taiho added. "But they are intelligent. The signal proves that." Soman raised her hand shyly. "Captain, should we try to signal back?" Captain Minho nodded. "That is why we are here. Dr. Hyuna, can you send a basic response? Something peaceful?" Dr. Hyuna worked at her controls. She had prepared for this moment. "I am sending mathematical sequences. 1 + 1 = 2, 2 + 2 = 4. Basic concepts that any intelligent species would understand." They sent the signal toward the planet. Then they waited. Space was quiet around them. Everyone held their breath. 15 minutes passed. Then the communication officer jumped in his seat. "Signal coming in! It is much stronger than before!" The new sound that filled the bridge was different, more complex. It seemed to have multiple voices speaking at once, but they were not fighting to be heard. They worked together like instruments in an orchestra. "They answered," Dr. Jiwan said with wonder. "They actually answered us." Dr. Hyuna's hands flew over her controls. "Captain, I am reading this as a greeting. But more than that, I think they are inviting us to come closer." Captain Minho looked around the bridge at his team. These people had become like family during the long journey. Now they would make history together. "Take us into orbit," he ordered, "but slowly. We do not want to seem threatening." The planet grew larger in the windows as they moved closer. It was beautiful. Blue oceans and green continents. White clouds swirled in patterns. It looked almost like Earth, but the continents were shaped differently. "Life signs all over the surface," reported the science officer. "And Captain, I am reading what look like cities. Big ones." Dr. Taiho's eyes went wide. "An entire civilization, Not just intelligent life, advanced intelligent life. As they entered orbit, something amazing happened. Small objects began rising from the planet's surface. They moved too smoothly to be machines, too purposefully to be natural. Are those ships? Soman asked. Dr. Jiwan adjusted the external cameras for a better look. What she saw took her breath away. No, she said softly. I think those are the aliens themselves. They are flying. The beings that rose to meet them were beautiful and strange. They had long, slender bodies that moved through space without any visible ship. Their movements were graceful, like dancers in the air. But the most striking thing about them was the brilliant colors that seemed to glow along their necks and shoulders. Those colors, Dr. Jiwan said, they are changing, like mood rings, but much more complex. Dr. Huna was recording everything. The colors might be part of their language, visual communication along with the sounds. One of the beings moved closer to the harmony than the others. It was larger and moved with clear authority. The colors on its body were different too. More controlled, less bright. The communication system came alive again. The new message was clearly directed at them. It had the same mathematical concepts they had sent, but arranged in a new way. Like a person repeating back a phrase to show they understood. They are learning our signals, Dr. Hyuna said with excitement. Fast learners too. Captain Minho made a decision. Send our response. Let them know we want to meet peacefully. Over the next hour, the two species slowly built a basic communication. Numbers led to simple concepts. Simple concepts led to basic words. The beings called themselves something that Dr. Huna's computer translated as Velathi. The being who seemed to be their leader identified itself with a name that came through as Kithara. The colors on its body remained calm and controlled throughout the conversation. Ambassador Kithara, Captain Minho said, testing the name. I think we are talking to an ambassador. Dr. Teho nodded. Their society is organized enough to have official representatives. That is a good sign for peaceful contact. Kithara's message came through the translators in broken but understandable words. Welcome, sky visitors. We greet with peaceful hearts. You wish to come to our world? Captain Minho looked around the bridge one more time. Everyone nodded. This was the moment they had traveled so far for. Tell Ambassador Kithara yes, he said. We would be honored to visit their world. The response from Kithara came quickly, but Dr. Hyuna frowned as she read the translation. Captain, there is something here I do not understand. Words about boundaries and sacred rules. The computer is having trouble with some concepts. Dr. Jiwan felt a small worry in her stomach. What kind of boundaries? I am not sure, Dr. Huna admitted. But Kithara seems to be warning us about something. Cultural rules, maybe? Things that are forbidden or dangerous? Captain Minho considered this. First contact was always risky. Every species would have their own customs and taboos. Tell Kithara we understand there are rules. We want to learn and respect their ways. The message seemed to satisfy the Velathi ambassador. Kithara's colors brightened slightly, which everyone hoped was a good sign. Permission granted for surface visit, came the translation. We provide guide. Young Silthan will teach sky visitors proper ways. Another Velathi moved forward from the group. This one was smaller than Kithara. Its colors shifted much more, quickly cycling through blues and greens that seemed to show curiosity or excitement. Silthan looks eager to meet us, Soman observed. She was right. The young Velathi's colors danced with what looked like joy. As the Harmony prepared to send down a shuttle, Dr. Jiwan felt the weight of history on her shoulders. Humanity was about to take its first steps on an alien world. Meet its first alien friends. She just hoped they would not make any terrible mistakes. The human shuttle landed softly on the green grass of the Velathi homeworld. Dr. Jiwan was the first to step outside. The air smelled sweet, like flowers mixed with rain. Two suns hung in the purple sky above them. "The gravity feels almost like Earth," she said into her radio. The other team members followed her out of the shuttle. Silthen waited for them nearby. Up close, the young Velothi looked even more amazing. He stood about 7 feet tall on long, thin legs. His arms ended in delicate hands with 4 fingers each. But the most beautiful part was his plumes. The colorful feathers grew along his neck and shoulders like a living rainbow. Right now, they glowed with soft blue and green colors that shifted like water in sunlight. When Silthen saw the humans, his plumes brightened with excitement. "Welcome to our world," Silthen said. His voice was musical, like several people singing together. "I am honored to be your guide." Dr. Hyuna held her translation device carefully. "Your English is very good." "Silthen, how did you learn so fast?" Silthen's plumes flickered with what looked like pride. "We are quick with languages, and we have been listening to your radio signals for many years. We learned much about humans before you arrived." Captain Minho looked surprised. "You have been watching us? For how long?" "Since your people first sent signals into space," Silthen replied. "We thought you might visit us someday. We wanted to be ready." Dr. Tejo pulled out his notebook. "So your society has been preparing for first contact. That explains why everything went so smoothly." Silthen nodded, his plumes dancing with agreement. "Yes, though we must be careful. There are rules, important rules that keep everyone safe." Salmon stepped closer to get a better look at Silthen's plumes. They were even more beautiful than she had thought. Each feather seemed to have its own light. "Those colors are incredible. Do they mean different things?" For a moment, Silthen's plumes went still. Then they returned to their gentle blue-green glow. "Yes, human salmon. The colors speak. But it is complicated. Perhaps we will teach you some basics." Over the next few days, the humans set up their research camp near a Velothi settlement. The aliens were friendly and curious. They brought food that tasted like sweet fruit and bread. They showed the humans how to use their technology, which seemed to work on sound and light patterns instead of electricity. Dr. Jiwon spent her time studying Velothi biology. What she learned amazed her. "Captain, these beings are incredible. Their plumes are not just for show. They are complex organs connected directly to their brains." "What do you mean?" Captain Minho asked. "The plumes can display thousands of different color combinations. Each combination means something different. It is like having a computer screen attached to their emotions." Dr. Hyuna worked with Silthen every day to improve their translation systems. She noticed something strange during their sessions. Whenever she asked about certain plume colors or patterns, Silthen became uncomfortable. "Silthen," she said one morning, "yesterday you showed me colors for happy, sad, angry, and excited. But what about those deep purple patterns I saw yesterday when Ambassador Kythera was here?" Silthen's plumes immediately flashed that same deep purple. The translation computer made strange beeping sounds and showed error messages on the screen. "That is difficult to explain," Silthen said quietly. "Some colors are private, personal, not for casual conversation." Dr. Hyuna made notes in her journal. "I understand. Every culture has private things. But the computer seems to have trouble with those concepts entirely." "Yes," Silthen agreed. "Some ideas do not translate well between our peoples." Meanwhile, Soman was having the time of her life. She loved watching the Velothi move. They were so graceful, like they were dancing even when they walked. Her background in dance helped her notice small details that others missed. She started keeping a detailed journal of everything she observed. How Silthen's plumes moved when he was excited. How other Velothi held their feathers when they talked to each other. How the colors seemed to flow in waves across their bodies. "It is like a whole language made of light and movement," she wrote. "I think I am starting to understand some basic patterns." But Somin did not realize that her careful observations were making some Velothi uncomfortable. When she stared too closely at their plumes, they would often move away or change the subject. Dr. Taiho was having his own problems. He wanted to understand Velothi society better, but every time he asked about their social structure, the aliens became evasive. "Silthan," he said one afternoon, "can you tell me about your families? How many Velothi live together? Who are the leaders?" Silthan's plumes turned a dull gray color. "These are complex questions, Dr. Taiho. There are aspects of our society that are sacred, forbidden, essential." He struggled with the last words, and the translator made more error sounds. "Sacred, forbidden, essential?" Dr. Taiho repeated. "I do not understand. Can you explain?" "Some things are too important to discuss casually," Silthan said. His plumes stayed gray. "They must be treated with proper respect, proper understanding, proper preparation." That evening, the human team met to discuss what they had learned. They sat around a small fire outside their camp. The Velothi settlement glowed with soft lights in the distance. "I think we are missing something important," Dr. Hyuna said. "There are concepts in their language that our computers cannot handle, not because they are complex, but because they are too different from human thinking." Dr. Jiwon nodded. "The plumes are more than communication tools. They seem to be tied to their deepest beliefs and customs." "But they are so friendly," Soman said. "Silthan loves showing us things. He gets excited about human technology. His plumes practically glow when we demonstrate something new." "Captain." Minho looked thoughtful. "Maybe that is the problem. They are excited to meet us, but they are also worried. Worried we might accidentally do something wrong." The next day proved the captain right. Dr. Taiho asked Ambassador Cathara if he could observe a Velothi religious ceremony. The response was immediate and shocking. Cathara's plumes turned almost black with what could only be anger or fear. She spoke rapidly in her own language. When the translation came through, her words were harsh. "Absolutely forbidden. Sacred rituals are not for outsider eyes. Such requests show dangerous ignorance of proper boundaries." Dr. Taiho tried to apologize. "I meant no disrespect, Ambassador. I only wanted to understand your culture better." "Understanding requires wisdom," Kithara replied coldly. "Wisdom requires respect for what should not be touched." The word "touched" came through the translator with strange emphasis, as if it meant more than the humans understood. Captain Minho stepped forward. "Ambassador, we are sorry if we have caused offense. We want to learn your customs so we can be respectful guests." Cathara's plumes slowly returned to their controlled neutral colors. "Captain Minho, your people are curious. Curiosity can be good. But curiosity without boundaries is dangerous. Some doors should not be opened. Some lines should not be crossed." That night, the human team was quiet around their fire. The excitement of first contact was being replaced by worry. How could they learn about the Velothi without accidentally insulting them? How could they build friendship when so many topics were forbidden? "Maybe we are trying too hard," Dr. Jiwon said finally. "Maybe we should let them teach us at their own pace." Soman looked up at the alien stars. "But what if we never really understand them? What if there are parts of their culture that humans can never safely know about?" Silthan appeared at the edge of their firelight as if he had been listening. His plumes glowed with gentle warmth in the darkness. "Human friends," he said softly, "do not worry so much. Yes, there are sacred boundaries, but friendship can grow within safe limits. We can share much without sharing everything." Dr. Hyuna smiled at the young Velothi. "Thank you, Silthan. We want to be good friends." "You already are good friends," Silthan replied. "But good friends must also be careful friends. Some gifts are too precious to give, some secrets too dangerous to share." As Silthan walked back to his settlement, his plumes trailing soft light behind him, None of the humans realized how prophetic his words would prove to be. Tomorrow would bring new discoveries, new wonders, and new dangers. The line between curiosity and catastrophe was thinner than any of them knew. Soman could not stop watching the Velati plumes. Every day she discovered new patterns, new colors, new movements that fascinated her. Her journal was full of sketches and notes about what she saw. "Look at this," she said to Dr. Ji-won, showing her latest drawings. When Silthan explained something complex, his plumes spread wider. When he is confused, they pull close to his body, and these color patterns here seem to match different emotions. Dr. Ji-won looked at the detailed sketches. "This is incredible work, Soman. You have an artist's eye for detail." "I think I am starting to understand their body language," Soman said proudly. "Maybe even better than the translation computers." What Soman did not know was that her intense observation was making many Velati uncomfortable. They whispered among themselves when she stared too long at their plumes. Some avoided her completely, but Silthan seemed different. He enjoyed showing off for the humans. When he demonstrated Velati technology or explained their customs, his plumes would dance with excitement. He appeared to like having an audience that appreciated his knowledge. 3 weeks after landing, the human team was invited to observe a Velati work session. Silthan would show them how his people shaped their environment using precise movements and sounds. The demonstration took place in a large open area near the settlement. Several Velati gathered to watch, their plumes showing various shades of curiosity and pride. "Today, I will show you how we guide the growing plants," Silthan announced. His plumes were brighter than Soman had ever seen them. Blues and greens swirled together like ocean waves. Silthan approached a patch of unusual plants. They looked like young trees, but their branches moved slowly even though there was no wind. He began to make soft singing sounds while moving his hands in complex patterns. The plants responded to his movements. Their branches bent and twisted, following the motions of his fingers. New leaves sprouted where he pointed. Flowers bloomed when he made certain sounds. "Incredible," Dr. Ji-won whispered. "He is communicating with the plants directly." But Soman was watching something else. As Silthan worked, his plumes spread wide behind him. The feathers caught the light of both suns, creating patterns she had never seen before. Colors flowed across the plumes like liquid rainbows. It was the most beautiful thing she had ever witnessed. Silthan became more excited as the demonstration continued. He was proud to show the humans what his people could do. His plumes spread even wider, displaying intricate patterns that seemed to pulse with life. "The plants respond to both sound and movement," he explained, his voice musical with joy. "But the connection goes deeper. We share our thoughts with them, our intentions, our hopes for how they should grow." As he spoke, his plumes shimmered with new colors, golds and silvers mixed with the blues and greens. The patterns were hypnotic, drawing Soman's attention completely. She stepped closer without thinking, fascinated by the display. The plumes seemed to glow from within. Each feather moved independently, creating a living artwork of light and color. Silthan was so focused on his demonstration that he did not notice Soman approaching. He stretched his arms wide to guide a particularly stubborn branch, his plumes spreading to their fullest extent. The beauty overwhelmed Soman's scientific training. Without conscious thought, driven by pure curiosity and wonder, she reached out her hand. Her fingers touched the edge of Silthan's extended plume. The effect was immediate and terrible. Silthan froze completely. His song stopped mid-note. The plants he had been guiding trembled and went still. For a moment that felt like hours. The only sound was the gentle wind through the grass. Then Silthan spoke in a voice barely above a whisper. "You touched my plume, human." The words carried such weight, such shock, that even without understanding the full meaning, Somin knew she had made a horrible mistake. Her hand dropped to her side as if burned. Silthan's plumes, which had been so bright and beautiful moments before, snapped tight against his body. Then slowly, they began to change color. The blues and greens drained away, replaced by pure white. Not the white of snow or clouds, but the white of bleached bone, the white of death. Silthan, Somin stammered. I am sorry. I did not mean to. But Silthan was not listening. He stared at her with wide eyes that seemed to see something terrifying. His entire body shook. The white plumes remained perfectly still, as if they had turned to stone. Other Velothi began arriving, drawn by some signal the humans could not detect. They saw Silthan's white plumes and gasped in horror. Their own plumes flashed through colors that clearly meant shock, fear, and something that might have been grief. What happened here? Demanded one of the older Velothi. His plumes were dark red with anger. She touched him, another whispered. The human touched his plume. The words spread through the gathering crowd like fire. More Velothi arrived each moment, all staring at Somin with expressions of horror and disbelief. Dr. Jiwan rushed to Somin's side. What happened? What did you do? I just touched his feather, Somin said, her voice breaking. I thought it was beautiful. I did not know. Captain Minho tried to take control of the situation. Everyone stay calm. This was clearly an accident. Somin meant no harm. But the Velothi were not listening to him. They surrounded Silthan, speaking rapidly in their own language. Their plumes flashed urgent patterns of red and black and deep purple. The translation computers could not keep up with their rapid speech. Ambassador Cathara arrived within minutes. When she saw Silthan's white plumes, her composed dignity shattered. Her own plumes went through a rapid cycle of colors that seemed to indicate panic, rage, and deep sorrow. Broken, sacred violation, bond, eternal, forbidden, came through the struggling translators. The words were fragments, but their meaning was clear enough. Something terrible had happened. Cathara spoke to the other Velothi in sharp, commanding tones. They began to move away, forming a protective circle around Silthan, but he remained motionless, his white plumes creating a stark contrast against his dark skin. Ambassador, Captain Minho said, please let us explain. This was an accident. Somin did not understand. Cathara turned to face the humans. Her plumes were now cycling rapidly through colors they had never seen before. When she spoke, her voice was cold with fury. Accident or not, the damage is done. The sacred bond has been broken, the ritual violated. Your presence here endangers us all. What ritual? Dr. Huna asked desperately. We don't understand what happened. Understanding comes too late, Cathara replied. The prohibition was clear. No touching, no contact with the sacred plumes. This was the most important rule. And you have broken it. She gestured to Silthan, who still stood frozen with his bone-white plumes. Look at him. See what your curiosity has cost. He is trapped now between worlds, between states of being. Your touch has left him in spiritual limbo. Dr. Jiwan felt her heart sink. Is he hurt? Can we help him? Help? Kithra's laugh was bitter. You have done enough. The sacred connection has been forced upon him without preparation, without consent, without understanding. He may never recover. The ambassador turned to address all the humans. You will return to your ship immediately. Contact between our species is ended. The risk is too great. Please, Somin begged, tears streaming down her face. Let me apologize to him. Let me try to fix this. You cannot fix what you do not understand, Cathara said firmly. And we cannot teach you what you are not ready to learn. The damage spreads with every moment you remain. As if to prove her point, Silthan suddenly collapsed to his knees. His white plumes trembled, and a soft, keening sound escaped his throat. It was a sound of pure anguish. "We are taking him to the healers," Kythera announced. "You will pack your equipment and leave this world. If you attempt to interfere further, we will consider it an act of war." The Velothi began carrying Silthan away. His white plumes dragged on the ground behind him like broken wings. He did not resist or acknowledge the human's presence. It was as if his spirit had left his body. Somin watched him go with horror and guilt crushing her heart. Her curiosity, her fascination with beauty, her simple human impulse to touch something wonderful had destroyed the friendship between their species. As the human team packed their equipment in stunned silence, none of them spoke. What was there to say? First contact, which had begun with such hope and promise, was ending in disaster. But the worst part was not knowing, not understanding what had really happened when Somin touched that plume. What ancient sacred ritual had she violated? What did those white plumes mean? And was there any way to repair the damage she had caused? The answers to those questions would change everything. But first they had to find the courage to ask them. The human team sat in their shuttle, ready for departure but unable to leave. Captain Minho had delayed the launch 3 times, hoping for some word from the Velothi, any sign that the situation could be repaired. Somin had not spoken since the incident. She stared out the window toward the Velothi settlement, tears dried on her cheeks. The weight of destroying first contact pressed down on her like a physical burden. Dr. Huna worked frantically at her computer, analyzing every conversation they had recorded with the Velothi. "There has to be something we missed," she muttered. "Some clue about what the plumes really mean." "We should just go," Dr. Tejo said quietly. "We have caused enough damage. Maybe someday, when they have forgiven us, another human team can try again." "No," Dr. Jiwan said firmly. "We cannot leave Silthan like that. Did you see him? Something is seriously wrong. His body, his mind, something fundamental has been changed." Captain Minho looked out at the alien landscape. "The ambassador made it clear. If we stay, they will consider it an act of war. We cannot risk starting a conflict over this." "Wait," Dr. Huna said suddenly. "Captain, look at this. I found something in the linguistic patterns." She put her analysis on the main screen. Lines of text scrolled past, showing Velothi words and their attempted translations. "See here? Every time we asked about plumes directly, the translation got worse. But look at these indirect references. When Silthan talked about sacred boundaries, when Kythera mentioned forbidden knowledge, the computer was trying to translate concepts it had no basis for." Dr. Jiwan leaned forward. "What do you mean?" "I think the plumes are not just communication organs. The Velothi were not just being secretive about social customs. They were protecting something much deeper, something that our human minds cannot easily understand." Dr. Huna pulled up her biological scans of Silthan from earlier weeks. "Look at this, Dr. Jiwan. You said the plumes were connected to their brains, but how connected?" Dr. Jiwan studied the data with new understanding. "These neural pathways are incredible. The plumes are not just connected to the emotional centers. They link directly to memory, consciousness, even what we might call the soul." "And when Somin touched the plume?" Captain Minho asked. "She made direct contact with Silthan's mind," Dr. Jiwan realized with growing horror. "Not just his thoughts or emotions, his actual consciousness." Somin finally spoke, her voice hollow. "I felt something when I touched him. Just for a second. Like hearing a song in a language I did not know. Like seeing colors that do not exist." Dr. Huna's fingers flew over her controls. "That confirms it. The touch created some kind of neural connection, but without proper preparation or understanding, it left him trapped," Dr. Tejo finished, "neither fully himself nor fully connected to Somin. caught between two incompatible forms of consciousness. A soft sound outside the shuttle made them all look up. Silthan stood at the edge of their landing area. His white plumes had not changed color, but he was moving under his own power. His eyes, though, seemed empty of recognition or emotion. "Silthan!" Soman jumped toward the door, but Captain Minho caught her arm. "Don't make it worse," he warned. They opened the door carefully. Silthan approached like a person walking in sleep. When he spoke, his voice was flat and mechanical. "The healers cannot help," he said. "The sacred bond is broken but not severed. I exist in the space between connection and separation. It is not a place for living." Dr. Jiwan's heart ached at his words. "Silthan, we want to help. Tell us what happened. Help us understand." Silthan's empty eyes focused on her with effort. "The Plume touch is our most sacred ritual. It creates permanent connection between two minds, two souls, but only when both are prepared. Only when both understand the cost and choose freely." "What kind of connection?" Dr. Yuna asked gently. "Complete. Sharing," Silthan replied. "Memories, emotions, dreams, the very essence of who we are. In proper ritual, two become one while remaining two. Perfect unity with perfect individuality." Soman stepped forward slowly. "But when I touched you, you forced the connection without understanding. Your human mind is so different from mine. The bond formed but cannot complete. I am trapped feeling your thoughts and emotions, but they make no sense to my Velati mind. And you carry a piece of my consciousness that your human brain cannot process." Dr. Jiwan realized the full horror of the situation. "So you are both trapped, connected but unable to truly merge. It must be agony." Silthan nodded slowly. "The healers say there are only two solutions. Complete the ritual properly, which would require Soman to undergo transformation that would destroy her humanity, or sever the connection completely, which would remove my ability to form emotional bonds ever again." "Both choices are impossible," Captain Minho said grimly. "That is why Ambassador Kithera ordered you to leave," Silthan explained. "Your presence makes the incomplete bond stronger and more painful. Distance may allow it to fade, though I would remain damaged." Dr. Huna looked up from her computer. "Silthan, what if there was a third option? What if we could create a controlled connection instead of the natural one?" "I do not understand." "Human technology combined with Velathi knowledge. Instead of completing your ritual or severing the bond, what if we modified it? Created something new that honors both human and Velathi? Nature?" Silthan's plumes flickered slightly, the first color they had shown since the incident. "The healers would say such a thing is impossible. Sacred rituals cannot be changed." "But what do you say?" Soman asked hopefully. For the first time since the touch, Silthan seemed to truly focus on her. "I say that I am already experiencing something impossible. Perhaps impossible problems require impossible solutions." Dr. Jiwan felt a spark of excitement. "If we could understand the neural mechanics of the bond, maybe we could create technological interfaces. Allow connection without permanent merger." "The healers would never approve," Silthan warned. "They see this as spiritual contamination. Mixing sacred ritual with alien technology would be the greatest blasphemy." "But it might save you," Soman said quietly. "And it might save our friendship with your people." Silthan was quiet for a long moment. His white plumes trembled slightly. "There is one healer who might listen. Elder Thymal has always believed that wisdom comes from understanding, not tradition. If anyone would consider a new solution, it would be her." Captain Minho made a decision. "Then we stay. Whatever the risk, we cannot leave you like this. And we cannot let first contact end in tragedy." "The ambassador will not approve," Silthan warned. "Then we will have to convince her," Dr. Huna said with determination. Show her that human curiosity, the same trait that caused this problem, might also be the key to solving it. As they prepared to approach the Velothi settlement once more, none of them knew if their plan would work. They were proposing to combine human technology with the most sacred rituals of an alien species. They were asking for forgiveness for a violation that might be unforgivable. But they had to try. Silthan's life hung in the balance, and perhaps the future of relations between their species as well. The first step would be the hardest. Convincing Ambassador Cathera to let them attempt something that had never been done before. Something that challenged everything the Velothi believed about their most sacred traditions. As they walked toward the settlement, Silthan beside them with his tragic white plumes, Soman whispered a prayer to whatever forces might be listening. She had broken something beautiful and sacred with her curiosity. Now she had to hope that same curiosity could help create something new and wonderful in its place. The future of two species might depend on whether love could overcome tradition and whether innovation could heal what ancient wisdom could not. Ambassador Cathera stood in the center of the Velothi council chamber, her plumes dark with anger. The humans had returned despite her orders. Now they sat before the assembled elders, requesting an audience about the sacred violation. "You were commanded to leave," Cathera said coldly. "Your presence here dishonors us further." Captain Minho stood respectfully. "Ambassador, we cannot leave Silthan in his current condition. We caused this problem. We must be part of the solution." "There is no solution," Elder Rythek declared. His ancient plumes were black with finality. "The sacred Siltharan has been broken. The young one must live with the consequences of your ignorance." Dr. Huna stepped forward. "Please, honored elders, help us understand what we have done. If we truly comprehend the sacred ritual, perhaps we can find a way to repair the damage." Elder Thymel, the healer Silthan had mentioned, spoke for the first time. Her plumes showed deep purple mixed with silver. "Understanding may bring greater pain, not healing. Are you prepared for that burden, humans?" "Yes," Soman said firmly. "I touched Silthan's plume. I must know what that means, no matter how painful the truth." Thymel studied the young human with ancient eyes. "Very well. But know that once you understand the depth of what was broken, you cannot unknow it." Elder Healer moved to the center of the chamber. Her plumes began to glow with soft colors as she spoke. "The Siltharan is not merely ritual. It is the foundation of our existence as a species. When two Velothi perform the sacred plume touch, they share everything. Every memory from birth to that moment. Every emotion ever felt. Every dream. Every fear. Every joy." Dr. Jiwan felt her breath catch. "Complete consciousness sharing. More than sharing," Thymel continued. "Becoming. Two minds become one while remaining two. It is the most intimate connection possible between living beings. In human terms, you might call it marriage of souls." Elder Rythek's plumes flashed with disapproval. "But it requires years of preparation, meditation, purification, spiritual training. Both participants must be ready to accept another consciousness as part of themselves." "And both must choose freely," added another elder. "The Siltharan cannot be forced or accidental. The mental preparations prevent incomplete bonding." Thymel's plumes grew brighter. "When performed correctly, the bonded pair experiences perfect unity. They can share thoughts across great distances, feel each other's emotions as their own. They become partners in the deepest sense, connected until death." "It sounds beautiful," Dr. Huna said softly. "It is," Cathera agreed, her anger fading slightly. "The Siltharan represents everything we value: unity, understanding, spiritual growth. It is the goal toward which our entire society strives." Thymel's expression grew sad. "But when the ritual is broken or incomplete, the results are tragic. One participant may be trapped in permanent connection while the other remains free, or both may be caught in a half-bond that brings only pain. She gestured towards Silthan, who sat motionless nearby. His white plumes had not changed since the incident. Your touch forced the connection without preparation. Silthan's mind tried to bond with yours, but human consciousness is too different. He is trapped feeling your emotions and thoughts, but they are incomprehensible to his Velati understanding. Somin's voice broke. And I carry part of him in my mind? Yes, Thymel confirmed. That is why you felt the song and colors when you touched him. A piece of his consciousness entered yours. But your human brain cannot process Velati thought patterns. The fragment of his mind within you is slowly dying. Dr. Jiwan understood the full horror. So Silthan experiences constant confusion and pain from the incomplete connection, while part of his consciousness dies inside Somin's mind. Precisely, Elder Rythek said grimly. This is why the Siltharan is our most protected secret. Why we warned you about sacred boundaries. One careless moment can destroy 2 lives. Captain Minho looked around the chamber at the grave faces of the elders. What are the traditional solutions? Thymel's plumes dimmed. If Somin could undergo the mental preparations and complete the Siltharan properly, both would be saved. But the process would fundamentally alter her human consciousness. She would become something between human and Velati, belonging fully to neither species. And the other option? Dr. Hayuna asked, though she dreaded the answer. Sever the connection. Completely, Kithara replied. Use our healing techniques to cut the mental link. But the trauma would destroy Silthan's ability to form emotional bonds. He would live, but never again experience love, friendship, or joy. Somin stood up abruptly. Then I will do it. I will complete the ritual and accept the transformation. No! Silthan spoke for the first time since entering the chamber. His white plumes trembled. I will not allow you to sacrifice your humanity for my sake. Better that I live without emotion than you lose who you are. But, Somin began. This is my choice, Silthan said firmly. I was careless in my demonstrations. I should have maintained proper distance. The fault is mine as much as yours. Elder Thymel watched this exchange with interest. Her plumes showed colors that might have been hope mixed with curiosity. There is wisdom in both your words, she said slowly. You each seek to protect the other at cost to yourself. This shows the bond between you has grown beyond the accidental connection. Dr. Huna seized on this opening. Elder Thymel, we believe there might be a third option. What if we could modify the connection instead of completing or severing it? Impossible, Elder Rythek declared. The Siltharan cannot be changed. It is sacred law. But this situation is already impossible, Dr. Jiwan pointed out. Silthan is experiencing something that should not exist according to your traditions. Perhaps impossible problems require new solutions. Thymel's plumes brightened with genuine curiosity. Explain your idea, humans. Dr. Huna pulled out her portable computer. We have technology that can interface with neural systems. If we could understand the mechanics of the broken bond, we might create a technological bridge, allow controlled connection without permanent merger. You propose to mix sacred ritual with alien machines? Elder Rythek's plumes turned nearly black with outrage. We propose to save 2 lives, Captain Minho replied calmly, using the best of both our people's knowledge. Elder Thymel was quiet for a long moment. Around the chamber, other elders whispered among themselves. Their plumes showed every color of the spectrum as they debated. Finally, Thimal spoke. In all our history, the Siltharan has never been successfully modified. But in all our history, it has never been accidentally triggered by an alien species either. She looked directly at Somin. You speak of preserving life and friendship, but what you propose has never been attempted. It could kill you both, or create something worse than the current situation. We understand the risk, Somin replied. But doing nothing means Silthan lives in pain forever, and our species part as enemies. At least this way, we try to heal what was broken. Kythera studied the humans carefully. And if we allow this experiment? What do you need from us, Dr. Jiwan felt excitement building. Complete access to your healing knowledge, understanding of how the Siltharan works on a biological level, and permission to attempt something that has never been done before. You ask us to risk our most sacred traditions on an untested theory, another elder observed. We ask you to trust that curiosity and friendship can overcome tradition and fear, Dr. Hayuna replied. The same human curiosity that caused this problem might also solve it. Elder Thimel's plumes cycled through a rainbow of colors as she considered. Very. Well, she said finally, I will work with you. But if this fails, if either Silthan or Somin is harmed further, the consequences will be severe. Understood, Captain Minho agreed. When do we begin? Now, Thymol replied. Every moment of delay increases the damage to both their minds. If we are to attempt this miracle, it must be soon. As the council chamber emptied and preparations began, Somin caught Silthan's empty gaze. For just a moment, she thought she saw a flicker of his old colors in his white plumes. We are going to fix this, she promised him. Whatever it takes, we will find a way. Whether that promise could be kept remained to be seen, but for the first time since the terrible accident, there was hope. The combined human and Velothi research facility buzzed with activity. For 3 days, teams from both species worked together to understand the broken bond between Somin and Silthan. What they discovered changed everything they thought they knew about consciousness and connection. Dr. Jiwan studied the neural scans while Elder Thymel examined them through Velothi bioanalysis techniques. Their equipment, so different in design, somehow worked together to reveal the truth. Look at this, Dr. Jiwan said, pointing to the brain patterns on her screen. The bond is not completely formed, but it is also not dying. It is adapting. Thymel's plumes flickered with amazement. Impossible. The Siltharan does not adapt. It either completes or fails. But this is not a normal Siltharan, Dr. Hayuna observed. This is a connection between two completely different types of consciousness. Maybe it is creating something entirely new. Somin sat in the testing chair, electrodes attached to her head. She had volunteered for every scan, every test, hoping to understand what was happening inside her mind. I can feel him sometimes, she reported. Not his thoughts exactly, but his presence, like someone singing in the next room. I know the song is there, but I cannot make out the words. Silthan, connected to similar equipment, nodded slowly. His white plumes had begun showing tiny flickers of color during the tests. And I feel her curiosity, he said. It is unlike anything in Velothi experience, like a bright flame that wants to touch everything, understand everything. It should be disturbing, but instead it is wonderful. Elder Thymel and Dr. Jiwan exchanged glances. They were seeing something neither species had expected. The bond is not breaking down, Dr. Jiwan realized. It is evolving, creating new pathways that can handle the differences between human and Velothi consciousness. Show me, requested Ambassador Kythera, who had been observing the tests with growing interest. Dr. Huna brought up the neural activity maps. See these patterns? When Somin experiences strong curiosity, Silthan's brain shows increased activity in areas we associate with creativity and joy. And when Silthan focuses on beauty or harmony, Somin's artistic centers activate. They are sharing not thoughts, but the essence of what makes their minds unique, Thymol said with wonder. Somen gives Silthan human curiosity and determination. Silthan gives Somen Velothi perception of beauty and spiritual connection. Captain Minho leaned forward. So instead of trying to force them apart or completely together, what if we enhance this natural adaptation? You mean help the bond evolve? Into something stable? Dr. Jiwan asked. Exactly. Use technology to support what their minds are already trying to do naturally. Elder Thymel was quiet for a long moment, her plumes cycling through deep purples and golds. In all our history, we have never considered that the Siltharan could become something other than total unity. But perhaps there are many forms of connection. Over the next day, they worked to design what Dr. Hayuna called the Bridge Protocol. Using human neural interface technology combined with Velothi bioharmonics, they created a system that could support and stabilize the evolving bond. It will not be like traditional Siltharan, Thymel explained to the assembled teams. But it will not be like human friendship either. It will be something new, a voluntary connection that can be deepened or reduced as both participants choose. And the risks? Ambassador Cathara asked. Unknown, Dr. Jiwan admitted. We are entering completely unexplored territory, but the current situation is unsustainable. Both Somen and Silthan are suffering. This gives them a chance at something better. Somen and Silthan looked at each other across the research chamber. Though his plumes were still mostly white, she could see the person she had accidentally bonded with beginning to return. I am willing to try, Somen said. Whatever happens, it has to be better than watching Silthan fade away. And I trust human curiosity, Silthan replied, his voice stronger than it had been in days. The same trait that created this problem may be the key to solving it. The procedure took place at sunset, when both suns of the Velothi world painted the sky in shades of purple and gold. Representatives from both species gathered to witness what might be the first successful modification of the sacred Siltharan in history. Somen and Silthan sat facing each other, connected to the bridge protocol devices. The technology hummed softly, creating a harmony between human electronics and Velothi bio interfaces. Begin the connection, Elder Thymel instructed. As the devices activated, something beautiful happened. Silthan's white plumes began to show color again. Not the pure Velothi patterns from before, but something new. Blues and greens swirled with silver and gold, creating combinations that had never existed in nature. Somen gasped as she felt the full connection for the first time. She could sense Silthan's consciousness clearly now, not as confusion or pain, but as a gentle presence that enhanced her own awareness. She saw the world through his eyes, perceiving beauty and harmony she had never noticed before. It is working, Silthan said with wonder. I can feel her curiosity, but it does not overwhelm me. It adds to my own thoughts, making them richer and more complex. Dr. Jiwan watched the neural monitors with amazement. Both brain patterns are stabilizing. The connection is voluntary and controlled. Either one can reduce or increase the level of sharing. And most importantly, Dr. Hayuna added, both maintain their individual identity while gaining something from the other. Elder Thymel's plumes glowed with joy. This is unprecedented. A new form of consciousness sharing that preserves the self while expanding awareness. Ambassador Cathara stepped forward. Silthan, Somen, how do you feel? Somen smiled, her eyes bright with wonder. I feel like myself, but more than myself. I can sense beauty and harmony the way Silthan does, but I am still human, still curious, and eager to explore. Silthan's plumes displayed patterns of happiness mixed with something entirely new. And I feel human determination and wonder flowing through my thoughts. It does not replace my Velothi nature, but adds new dimensions to it. I understand now why humans reach for the stars. Over the following weeks, the success of the bridge protocol changed everything. Other volunteers from both species stepped forward, curious to experience this new form of connection. Each pairing was unique, creating different combinations of shared awareness while preserving individual identity. Dr. Tejo became bridge-bonded with Elder Rithek, combining human analytical thinking with ancient Velathi wisdom. Their partnership produced insights into both cultures that neither could have achieved alone. Captain Minho worked with Ambassador Kithara to establish the first interspecies council. Their bridge bond allowed them to understand each other's concerns and motivations with unprecedented clarity. Even Dr. Huna found a partner in a young Velathi linguist named Kelthin. Together, they developed new forms of language that could express concepts from both human and Velathi experience. But it was Somin and Silthan who remained the heart of the new understanding. Their accidental connection had become a friendship, deeper than either species had thought possible. They worked together as cultural ambassadors, helping others learn to bridge the gap between human and Velathi consciousness. "What we created here is just the beginning," Somin said one evening, as she and Silthan watched the stars appear in the alien sky. His plumes now displayed colors that shifted between human and Velathi emotional patterns, creating something entirely new and beautiful. "Yes," Silthan agreed. "We have proven that curiosity, when guided by respect and understanding, can create wonders. Your human desire to touch and explore, combined with our Velathi wisdom about sacred connections, has given birth to something neither species could have imagined alone." Months later, the first generation of children born to bridge-bonded pairs took their first steps. Some were human children with Velathi foster parents. Others were young Velathi being raised by human families. All of them grew up understanding that consciousness was not limited to one species or one way of thinking. The research station that had been built to study the crisis became a permanent embassy. Young beings from both species came there to learn about bridge bonding, to experience controlled connections with members of the other species, and to explore the possibilities of interspecies understanding. Dr. Ji-won, now the director of interspecies medical research, often marveled at how far they had come. "We started with a terrible accident," she told new arrivals. "One moment of curiosity that nearly destroyed first contact between our peoples. But that same curiosity, combined with forgiveness and determination, created something beautiful." Elder Thaimal, working alongside human scientists to develop new bridge bonding techniques, had become one of the most respected figures in both cultures. "The old ways taught us that the Siltharan was perfect and unchangeable," she would say to her students. "But perfection that cannot grow is not truly perfect. What we have now is better than tradition. It is tradition that evolves." Ambassador Kithara and Captain Minho established the first interspecies colony on a moon between their two worlds. There, humans and Velathi lived together, some bridge-bonded, others simply friends, all working toward a future neither species could have built alone. As the years passed, the story of Somin's accidental touch became legend. Children of both species learned about the human who reached out in wonder and the Velathi who forgave her mistake. They learned that curiosity could be dangerous, but that curiosity combined with respect and love could change the universe. The final scene of their story took place 10 years later, at the dedication of the first starship built jointly by human and Velathi engineers. Children from both species played together in the gardens nearby, some wearing neural interfaces that allowed them to share emotions and thoughts safely. Somin, now a grandmother figure to many of these children, stood with Silthan watching the next generation prepare for adventures among the stars. His plumes, still displaying their unique human Velathi patterns, glowed with contentment. "Do you ever regret it?" she asked him. "That moment when I touched your plume and changed everything?" Silthan considered the question, his consciousness touching hers through their bridge bond. She felt his emotions directly: gratitude, joy, and a deep sense of rightness about the path their lives had taken. "How can I regret the moment that taught us both species that love is stronger than tradition?" he replied. "Your curiosity broke something that seemed unbreakable. But in breaking it, you showed us how to build something better." Around them, the sounds of two species working and playing together filled the air. Human laughter mixed with Velothi song. Children spoke in languages that borrowed words from both cultures. The future, built on the foundation of one human's curiosity and one Velothi's forgiveness, stretched out before them full of infinite possibility. The universe was vast and full of wonders waiting to be discovered. And now, for the first time, in the history of either species, they would explore it together.